I came to Canada in 1968 from the land of lovely beaches and palm trees, Glasgow, Scotland, where you could sunbathe all day and get black.
So when you came, there wasn't a folk club here in Toronto?
There was places you could play in, and there was even one in where Fiddler's Green was. There was even a club in there, run by the YMCA, but none of it had the atmosphere or the feeling like the Glasgow or the Scottish clubs had. So that's why Jim Strickland and I decided to try and start one. But I mean, there was a Bohemian Embassy. There was, Grumbles downtown, and there was a coffee, and there was the Riverboat, and there was, but none of them quite like Fiddler's Green.
Now, those weren't folk clubs, were they? They were performance places.
That's the whole point. Folk clubs in Scotland allowed people to sing who just walked in the door and said, "Can I sing 3 songs?" And we just let them sing. And that way they gradually built up their experience and their repertoire. And one day they're the ones that are doing the whole night. And that would be just before the main performer would come on. We'd have maybe half an hour of people just walking in the door. Then the main performer, and maybe another couple of sets of people walking in the door. Or not, people we knew sometimes. And then that would allow then young people, young singers, a chance to get on the stage and sing. And some of them were pretty bad, and some of them were absolutely terrific,
When you first started Fiddler's Green, the folk club, how did you get people to come? How did you let people know about it?
We went down to the Toronto Folklore Centre, which was the main folk music place in town, and we put a lot of stuff in there. And then we went round the buildings all around where the actual club was, the high-rise buildings, and we put leaflets through all the doors. And the first night it opened, it was packed. So we did all right. We used to run 2 nights a week for folk music.
What were the 2 nights?
Tuesdays and Fridays.
No, I mean, were they different musics?
No, both whatever we decided to put on. First star of Fiddler's Green was Shelley Posen. He did the first night, and the next night was Owen McBride did it. And it's just like that, more local, not enough money to hire the bigger ones yet, And that's really how we did it.
Were you paying your performers?
Yeah, from day one we paid the performance. And we never, ever gave them a percentage of the door. We gave them a flat fee and any more if we had it, so that they always knew they were getting X amount. Even though nobody turned up at the club, they got X amount of dollars. I didn't believe in this business of I'll give you a percentage of the door, which leaves the club owner with no responsibilities, And I thought that was wrong. So.
And how was there some kind of machinery to allow people from the floor to go up onto the stage and sing?
You just come and ask. Just come in, and I never auditioned anybody in my life. They just said, "Can I sing 3 songs?" And I said, "Go ahead." So you'd get a guy going up and playing a guitar and strumming and strumming and strumming and go, "Entrance, exit, entrance, exit," for half an hour. People like that, we had to kind of shuffle off the stage after, 15 minutes. But I never, ever auditioned anybody, which led to a lot of trouble as well, People, one guy asked us, "What did you think of my singing?" I said, "Well, your singing wasn't very good, and your guitar playing was a bit..." And he says, "Well, I'm primarily a poet." So I says, "Well, why don't you just read them instead of trying to sing them?" And he immediately started crashing his head against the wall, screaming, "You don't like me, you don't like me," to get an ambulance and to take him to the hospital. So after that, whenever a performer asked me what I thought of the music, I would always say, "I was outside making coffee, but Jim Strickland was inside listening. You ask him," So I chickened out after that. And to this day, I've kept that. I've never, ever told a performer what I think.
Did you and Jim sing together or separately?
Separately. We never. Grit Laskin and I sang together a lot. And Jim, And Richard Avery was also one of the people that started the club in the beginning, but he only lasted a few weeks when he realised how much work was involved. So after that, he just came along and sung, but Jim and I ran it from then on, and it was open 7 nights a week. You know, folk music 2 nights, bluegrass another night, Irish music another night, and we paid the rent on the building, and we allowed any musical organisation free access to the building for a night they wanted to put on. We had dancing and everything, you know. And it was all, none of them paid any rent. We paid all the rent. So we were philanthropic to the folk world.
Yeah, can I just ask you a question? How about, you know, cleaning up at the end of the night, changing the garbage, the booze? I mean, all
the booze? There was no booze, it was coffee. How dare you booze? Oh. But we had Jim Strickland and I and Sharon Case, I don't know if you should consider Jim Armour. They would stay behind and help clean it all up and get it ready for the following thing. It was all done for nothing. Nobody ever got paid. Not once did we ever pay.
How did you and Grit start singing together?
He turned up at the club when he was 18, and he walked in and asked if he could sing a song. So we put him on the stage, and he sang quite well. We liked what he did, and he came down, and we convinced him to come along to one of our nights when the British guys were getting together to play music, and he just sat in and he stayed in, and that was it. But I got to tell you, the first time he did a feature act at the club was about a year later, and I knew he liked to be funny in those days on the stage, so we made a laugh track for the sound system. And every time he said something that was reasonably funny, we turned it on and turned it off, and he came off the stage thinking, I was incredible. I made them all laugh so much. And to this day, well, he knows now that it was a laugh track we made. And that was a thing you had to watch at Fiddler's Green. You couldn't turn your back or somebody was going to try something. You know, just devilment, really, nothing serious, you know. Just a bit of a laugh.
How long did the club last?
18 years. About 10 years up the original building of the YMCA on Eglinton. Yeah. Now, the club lasted 18 years. The YMCA eventually pulled it down, and we moved down to the Transact Club because they offered us free accommodation and we didn't have to pay rent and stuff like that. So we could give our whole purpose we gave the performers almost all the money we got at the door. Nobody kept any money, you know. And when we needed funds, we would ask Bruce Coburn or somebody to come and do a free night for us, and they would do it, and that would help raise funds. Stan Rogers always did free nights for us, you know. That was really how it was done.
Tell me how the Friends of Fiddler's Green came to be.
The Friends of Fiddler's Green, I blame Eric Nagler, although some of the guys don't remember this. But Eric started a kind of a song circle thing out in the car park. Fiddler's Green was the only coffee house with a car park for 200 cars. Don't know why. And we used to get together on a Saturday in a big circle and sit and, you know, swap songs. And some of the British guys used to come and do that, and then Grit came, and out of that developed the Friends of Fiddler's Green. We realised that we all liked singing together. So then we went for a practice, and one night, and I remember it distinctly, we discovered we could all play a tune, the same tune on all the instruments, and that's really what happened to Fiddler, how it came about. And I tell no lie.
Who were the British guys? It was Rick Avery?
It was Rick Avery, even Margaret Crystal used to sing with us, Ian Robb, Pete Shippard, Jim Strickland, Alistair Brown. Oh, there's been so many. There's been on average about 6 or 7 in the band. Some left and some came back and forward. I can't remember them all now, there's too many.
And what was your connection to the music, the folk music community in the city?
Well, you know, thinking about that connection we had, what do you mean by connection? I mean, we were just part of it. We just put on our version of what we thought it should be, and they put on their version of what they thought it was we, and we were very successful in the early days, and they weren't so successful. A lot of them had to pack it in, shut down the clubs, and you know, but we were really successful, only because of we had a British attitude to it, and not Canadian. You know, we weren't stuck on the performer, you know, be famous. You know, we weren't stuck on that. But eventually, I mean, we put some great performers on that have become famous over the years, you know. But in the early days, we just let them play. Even if they couldn't tune up their guitars, we let them play anyway. We weren't fussy.
Stan Rogers used to come into the club?
All the time, all the time. Ian Tyson would show up every now and again. Leon Redbone was a big supporter. Although many a fundraising evening to Leon Redbone, and there was a whole Bruce Coleman would come and help us raise funds, and you know, because you were always guaranteed a sellout if Bruce came, and so one time he came and he said, could I have a piano? And we had an upright piano on the stage, but it had to go and get repaired. So I called up the piano company and said, we need a piano delivered for tonight for Bruce Coburn's club. They delivered a full-size grand piano, and I just left them the key for the door. And when I came home from work, there was a full-size grand. That meant 50 or 60 of the audience couldn't be in there because the piano took up the space. But those are just things that happen, you know. He came back and did another night when we got our old piano back.
Over the years, Tam, the band has played in a lot of places, festivals, clubs, and so on. What are some of the places that are dearest to you?
Oh, the Ark in Ann Arbor was our favourite club in London. There's a club in London, the Cuckoo's Nest, that we play every year, and also the Transact in Toronto. We play that every year. But the Ark is one of our favourite places to play, and it's really good. And we've played a tremendous amount of colleges and concerts, and played in Bermuda and New York and all kinds of stuff, you know. But the Ark, I'd say out of town, our favourite place would be the Ark in Ann Arbor, which is a coffee house, similar to what we do, except it's been running for 40 years. And it's now a bit more professional, but still, you know, still the same kind of place.
And when you go down there, do you think of yourself as a Canadian band?
Yeah, well, mostly. I'd say we think of ourselves. I'd say we think of ourselves more as a British band than a Canadian band. Now, it's not to say that we're terrific at what we do. If we went to play in Britain, there's thousands of people play as good as we do, but there's not many over here do it. That's why we get away with it, you know. In the same way, there's lots of people singing British songs, single people that sing British songs, but if they went to Britain, they'd just be another singer.
But there's something that goes beyond the music, right, when the friends perform?
Well, comedy has a lot to do with it. Comedy has an awful lot to do with what... And I mean, let's face it, we've been playing together for 34 years, and we all still like each other. And we're the best of friends, but you shouldn't turn your back on the rest, because the people that are left standing there will plot to do something to you if you're not there, so you always have to be on your toes. You know, a practice with our band at one time used to consist of 2 hours of practice and 2 hours of figuring out what to do to somebody that wasn't there. And so it's just gone on like that for years and years and years. You know, but that's okay. It's part of the game.
When you think back of performances you've had, do any stick out in your mind as memorable or catastrophes or anything over the years?
No. I tell you, when you play festivals and concerts, there are so many of us that if one doesn't do well, the other will. You know, and you're always protecting each other all the time. If somebody goes up with a sore throat or sings badly, or it doesn't matter, it's covered up by the others, you know. They all look after each other on the stage. And it's always been that way. I can't think of any, you know, I mean, we played so many, you know, all of them were, all of them were good. But we've had a lot of laughs, I'll tell you. I was just thinking about one the other day when somebody from Montreal was asking us when we played Montreal, and we played Montreal at McGill, and we went up in an elevator, 8 floors to the concert hall. But unbeknownst to everybody, I knew this. I opened the window behind us in the stage, and it's actually built into a hill, so you could step out the window onto the hill. And I went to the window, and Alistair Brown said, "Open the window and let some air in." I says, "You suppose you want me to dive out as well?" He says, "Yeah, okay." So I opened the window and dived out the window. And Alistair thought I'd committed suicide right in the middle of the concert. He was calling ambulances and everything. I was hiding just outside it. Just things like that happen all the time, you know. You can't relax for a minute. But it's all friendly. It's all warm and friendly, you know.
What part has the band played in your life, do you think?
Oh, it's my life. It was my musical life. I'm. All the others have musical careers other than the band, but for me, just playing with the band is all I wanted to do, and that's all. At one time, I used to play 6 or 7 instruments with the band, and that's all I ever wanted to do was just play with them. I didn't want to go. I used to play solo in Scotland a lot, and over here I did it a few times, but I'd rather just play with the guys because the atmosphere was so good and lots of fun, you know.
You were usually the master of ceremonies, weren't you?
Yeah, biggest mouth. It's not the same thing apparently, but they used to always say I was the biggest mouth in the band. Yeah. But that's, you know, every band has to have somebody at the front. And I'm not only the biggest in size, but I was the biggest mouth as well. So I got to... And people like Ian Robb and I mean, they were shy for talking when we all first started out. Now, of course, he's a full-time performer. He talks as much as he needs to talk. But when he first started out, he was always very quiet and didn't say anything on the stage. Stu Cameron never said anything on the stage. It was Grit and I that did all the talking. Jim Strickland very rarely spoke on the stage either. He just sang.
When did telling jokes become part of the act?
From day one. Telling jokes has always been part of the act. And for no reason, you know, it just happened that we tell jokes and keep the audience amused. And that way we can make them forget about some of the stuff we've just sung that wasn't very good or was bad. As long as we get a laugh out of them, that's the main thing. My ambition when I used to go on the stage with them is not to make the audience laugh. It was to make the band laugh. If I could make the band laugh, I think I'd succeeded. Because you can always make an audience laugh, but it was harder to make the band laugh, you know. I'll tell them a joke they never heard before. So that was my ambition when I was on the stage, was to get them. And sometimes I did it quite well. Other times I failed miserably.
I heard you plenty of times be very, very good.
Yeah, but you know, I've played in other places where I should just shut up and go away, you know. But I've never had the courage to do that. I just carried on bravely anyway. And I should have just shut up and sit down and sang and let it go at that, you know. But that's all part of the experience. You know, sometimes you're good, sometimes you're bad.
You used to be raunchier.
I don't think it was raunchier. I think audiences over the years have become more tolerant. And you think I was less raunchy, and I'm not. I tell a lot of similar stuff, but audiences are more accepting now of what we do. We don't. If you think about it, though, we didn't tell very many dirty jokes and all that on the stage. The odd one, but most of our jokes are quite clean. But people used to think the same as you. Oh, they're raunchy. Same people always thought the band was a bunch of drunkards. So if we went somewhere to play, they'd be giving us pints of beer, and none of us drink very much. So we had this terrible reputation. from people like you.
And you got mileage, not you personally, all the guys in the band got mileage out of what you did in your personal lives. That was a lot of joking around off that, playing off that.
Most of it was playing off me, because I was, the rest were all in terribly clean occupations, like, laboratory technologists, or Ian was an electron microscopist, and but I worked in a sewage treatment plant, so it may be shit to them, but it's bread and butter to me, and they all used to get at me on the stage because of that, But it was a good job, and I was a millwright with them, with the city, and I retired from it, still alive.
Let's say a wonderful song that you sing about those scows that pull
Yeah.
the shit out from Glasgow Harbour
Yeah.
or something.
They really are, and I saw them again when I was home. They really are. They fill them up and take them out into the Irish Sea and dump them. The bottom opens up and down it goes, shuts up and come home. But now they're getting secondary treatment, which means they won't be doing that for very long, because everything has to change, pollution and whatnot. But the funny thing about it was that people went for sails on it while it went to sea. Women would sit and drink cups of tea and eat buns on the deck on a boat full of shit. And I've also got another, I must say, at least another half dozen songs about the same subject from all over the world that people have sent me. There's sewage boats in Holland and some in Australia and whatnot, But I haven't tried singing them yet.
How did the band build it, the members of the band, how did you build your repertoire?
Just doing what we do. We didn't try to build anything. We all figured out what we do together was we'd always play dance tunes together. So we plan, whenever we met before a concert, we would plan the dance tunes. And then when you got on the stage, it's every man for himself, But some of the tunes we already knew we would be accompanying somebody singing because that's what he liked, he would tell us. But most times, each singer does his own thing on the stage. Each singer tells his own joke, and that's really all it was. It was really a bunch of individuals who just happened to sing collectively or play collectively the dance tunes, and the rest of the time they sang on their own, and we chorused with them or whatever.
What did David Parry bring to Friends?
Oh, now David Parry was the best. First of all, he was a professional actor for many years, and his repertoire of recitations was quite phenomenal. Of English recitations are very funny, and he had, whenever we used to do mummers plays and things like that, David would all stop the action and say, "Why don't you do this?" And David would have it right. He was just a consummate performer. He was just terrific at it. In the end, he went to the Museum of Civilization to organise their drama program. But he was the ultimate as far as great singer. He just had a way of putting a song over. Didn't matter what it was, and he was just one of us. But yeah, he'd been all around the world singing and playing and teaching and back and forward, and he was, he always says that at one time where we found him was we were playing at a concert somewhere outside Toronto, and we were explaining to the audience what the concertinas were, and I said that there is another, we play English, which is out and in the same note. I says there is another form of concertina called the Anglo-German concertina, which has a note in one way and a note out the other, so you have to play jerkily. I says, at the time, I says, you have to be spastic to play one of them. And a voice from the audience shouted, "I play one of them," and it was David Parry, and that was how we met him. And next week he was playing with us, simple as that. But he was the ultimate as a singer and as a performer and as an actor. He did everything, Sad loss was David. That really upset me when he went,
After you lost David, did the band, when you have a gig, is there anything you can do to fill in what he used to bring?
We could never fill in the recitations and the acting part, but we did take some of his songs and we learned them and other people would sing them. But as far as any of the recitations that he used to, Your Lions, Et Our Albert and Stanley Holloway stuff that he used to do, none of us could do that. He just had a way of doing it. But we remembered them by singing a lot of his songs over the years.
Over the years, has the band changed a lot?
The band has changed. Only people leave and people join it, but not musically or not because we like the way we do it, and we're the only people that do it that way, and so we won't change it, to go with the times or to be more popular or anything like that. But every now and again, somebody leaves to go, and Jim Strickland left, and somebody else would join us, and but the basic 6 of us have been together for many, many years, right from day one. But, people come and people go. But nobody's ever been fired. If you leave, you could come back in again in 10 years and join us, if you want to.
And over the years, I think it's something like 32 or 33 years.
34 nearly.
34? How has the music world changed around you?
Oh, I find that the folk clubs in general and folk music in general has become a business, whereas when we started off playing, it wasn't quite a business. But now it is a singer goes on the stage and, they want to make money, they want to make a record, they want to do this, they want to do that. And I find that attitude is coming out, including from club owners, our club organisers. They are similar. They think it's a business now. And a lot of the fun has gone out of it for me, except when I play with the guys themselves. It's just when we ran our club, it wasn't run as a business. It was run, we had to use business principles in order to pay the rent, but otherwise it was fun. And now I find a lot of the fun has gone out of it. I go to clubs and places and I hear young singers, and the attitude has changed. That's all I can tell you. Some of it's good and some of it's bad, but mostly I find, generally speaking, the attitude of people nowadays has gone. It's become very much a business, and they want to be famous, or they want to be, make the $1 million record or whatever it is they want to do. I never noticed that when I first came here. We just all went out and did it for fun, Because nowadays you can make an album so cheaply, and that's part of the reason as well. Everywhere you go, people are flogging their album, including ourselves, selling an album. Whereas when I first started out, you couldn't do that, It cost a lot of money, and you couldn't, we didn't have the money to do it, So I find it's just changed. It's become more business-like.
When you look at the folk music scene, do you observe any people that have modeled on what the Friends are or were?
I was told there was a group down in New Brunswick or somewhere that was modelled. There is a group in Scotland called Stramash, which is exactly the same as the Friends of Fiddler's Game, although we've been doing it much longer than them. And they're all professional singers themselves, or people who have been doing, when I say professional, I don't mean financially professional, I just mean performance-wise. And they get together the same as we do and play, and they also do individual stuff all over. Adam McNaughton is one, Gord McCulloch, there's a whole bunch of them, and they've formed exactly the same as we have. But I don't know anywhere else. Again, I think it has a lot to do with, if you want to be famous, don't play in a group like us, Go away and do it on your own. I mean, Ian Robb is famous, and so is Grit. And so in between playing with us, they would go and do stuff. But generally speaking, if you want to be a famous singer, don't hang out with the friends of Fiddler Screen, because you'll just be part of the bunch. You know.
Were you asking a question?
No, I'm laughing.
Well, it's true. That's just the way it is, you know.
Yeah. What? How did you feel when you were told you were going to get the Estelle Klein Award?
Well, I had to laugh. Nobody's ever given us an award for anything, and we weren't quite sure what the Estelle Klein Award was, and but then we discovered it was for our contribution, and we sat down one day and added up our contribution to folk music, and it's quite phenomenal if you think of all the stuff that Ian Robb does with his own record company. He plays in 3 bands. Grit Laskin makes guitars. He has a record company. He sings and performs. Alistair Brown had a radio program for 20 years in London, and he, you know, did all that, and he performs, and all of it. There's just a tremendous. Lawrence Stevenson, our fiddle player, plays in 4 bands. One of them is a flamenco band. He goes under the name of Lorenzo Stefanzo or something when he's playing with a flamenco band. And he goes to Spain and plays with a flamenco band. Can you imagine? And he comes from Glasgow. But you know, we all do so much. Our contributions is tremendous. And we decided, we all had a meeting and decided we deserve it. So we went to get it. So that's all.
You know, everyone defers to you as a repository of knowledge and information about folk music in general, traditional music, and about the folk scene. You know, your house it's almost like a library of music. What parts of the music scene have sort of fed you emotionally the most?
Oh. What I like and what I've always done is Glasgow. Glasgow is one of the few cities in Britain that has a musical tradition all of its own. Songs about Glasgow, funny songs, sad songs, serious songs, and that's what I've concentrated on mostly in my life. I used to sing some American songs and some English ones and Irish ones, but in the end I've gotten down to just doing songs from Glasgow, and that's really the biggest part for me. In the same way, Grit couldn't find any Toronto songs, so he writes them. You know, that's the way it is. And Ian does mostly, when he's playing on his own, he plays with Finest Kind as well. That's another thing he does. And when he's playing on his own, he does mostly English. But with Finest Kind, he does some American and some English, you know. But our contribution is tremendous all over the folk scene, really. Even though we are getting old, you know. And I have to say, I thought that there was nobody coming behind us. But on the weekend, I realised that I was totally wrong. Duncan Cameron, you know, Stu Cameron said, he's coming along just great. And my own daughter is taking part of, and Ian Robb's daughters. There's a whole bunch of them, all part of the folk scene. And it's coming along great behind us. Not the same maybe as when we did it, different. But the tradition has been keep coming, you know.